Welcome to another episode of Jamming with Jason. See, I did the intro a little bit different that time. I probably threw some of you off, right? Jamming with Jason. Anyway, all right. I'm cracking myself up and we haven't even started the episode yet, right? All right. Well, here we go. I am excited for today. And I've got Reshanda Yates with me, and I tell her this, and I will tell everybody in the world. She is such a special person. She really is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. And so I am just honored. We had her on the podcast before and honored to have her back again. So hopefully she'll come back a third, fourth, fifth time, as we keep going. But I'm excited for the episode today with Reshanda. So let's get that episode rolling. But again, if you haven't plugged in your headphones, if you're not sitting back and relaxed yet, go ahead and do that. But hey, if you're driving your car, then, just keep driving your car. But anyway, here we go with that episode. All right, Reshanda. I just want to do like a little chair dance when I see you. It makes me happy, and your laugh and your smile just gets me every time.
I was here for a good chair dance.
Well, and maybe we'll talk about, because you introduced me to praise break too. So we might have to talk about praise breaks too, which I think are a fabulous idea too. But anyway, so excited to have you back. I know that you and I both have a connection with music. And I didn't realize, right? I mean, you were in a music class. I think I'm calling it sound healing, or can't remember exactly the title, but of ways to use music to heal yourself, both emotionally, spiritually, lots of different ways. And I knew you were always into music, like I was, but I didn't realize you were a trained musician.
Right.
Right. So, yes. so maybe, just to start with, because I know we wanted to talk some about frequency and some of the things that have been going on in your life, but maybe just share a little bit, because like I said, I don't even know that whole story about you. Shared a little bit with me, but how has music been a part of your life? Because I know, like you said, you're a professionally trained musician as well, but you don't do that for a living, right? So
exactly. Yes. I'm so glad you brought this up too, because one of the things that has been so wonderful recently as a result of the training, that I took with you, is coming back to music. And it really is like coming back home for me. And ever since I was 4 years old, when I was 4 years old, actually, I think 4 or 5 years old, I was very young. And my brother had been given this little tiny junior size upright piano, and he did not even look twice at it. He did not care about it. His godmother had given it to him. Meanwhile, I'm over there picking out songs, composing songs.
At 4 and 5.
Yes, very, very young. And so music was just in me from a very, very young age. And my mom saw that. She was really good at picking up on our natural talents and gifts. So she nurtured it, And so she put me in music lessons, as soon as she could afford it, and got me an instrument as soon as she could. And, so I played music, and then I went on and actually became, a master musician on the clarinet. And went
really?
to, yeah.
that's the instrument my mom played too.
Yep. And, went to a top school for music performance. And through my experiences in learning to be, a very high performing musician, I came to kind of, what's the word? I grew apart from it. I started to get very bogged down with it. I think it's something that a lot of musicians go through, I think. And so I started to just, I stopped playing for a while. I stopped even, which is crazy when I think about this, I stopped even really listening to a lot of music. You know, I got very in my head with it, I think. It became also a painful experience for me. So there's a lot of things that went together with that. A lot of them were actually addressed through what we're going to talk about today, which is so crazy. But you know, whether it was the discomfort that I was feeling while playing, whether it was the stress that I put on myself, all the judgment that I put on myself, all of those things came into play. And I just kind of, you know, me and music kind of weren't friends for a while. And so to be able to kind of come back to it, you know, I remember really, one of my favorite artists is this musician called Ryan Adams, not to be confused with Bryan Adams.
Not the Canadian Bryan Adams,
exactly.
But Ryan Adams. Okay.
Fun fact, they actually have the same birthday, which is like really interesting. But, you know, they're like probably a decade or more apart. But they have the same birthday. But anyway, I digress. I used to listen to Ryan Adams when I felt depressed. I struggled with depression. But what I would do with it, I would actually use it to kind of make myself more depressed. And I would kind of sit and stew in that like self-pity and just you know, just go as deep down as I could into the darkness. And I would have these narratives that I would tell myself, like, oh, Ryan Adams, he just gets my pain, he gets my angst. And I would just like go, you know, there. But it's so different now. Like I listen to Ryan Adams again, but it's not that same relationship with the music now. Yeah. You know, as a result of what we did together. And so to be able to go back to that, because I still love Ryan Adams, right? But I stopped listening to him because I thought, no, if I go back there, I'm going to go back to that place. I didn't want to go back to that place. So it had been years, you know?
Well, so there's a couple things there I want to kind of follow up on with you a little bit more, because to make sure that I understood, right, and to make sure everybody listening kind of gets it too. But, you know, growing up, this stress and judgment that you were putting on yourself, right? And I know, I mean, music is a very competitive space, especially, you know, professionally, you know, speaking. There's a lot of pressure in the music industry, a lot of pressure in the music industry, a lot of pressure in music training as well. Yeah. Right. And so what I was kind of hearing is, you know, you started playing music because it was fun and you loved it.
Right.
You kept going. And, you know, when you become a master musician, then there's all this other pressure and everything on you. And it stopped being fun because you were having all this stress and judgment and probably some worry around, I'm not good enough, this other person's better than me, all the comparisonitis sort of stuff as well. And I see this with a lot of people with a lot of things, right? It's funny because, you know, one of my sisters actually quilts. And quilting has nothing to do with music, right? But she's really good at it. And I remember at one point saying, why don't you actually sell some of your quilts? And she said, well, if I did it for the money, it wouldn't be fun anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'd probably stop doing it. And so is that kind of the feeling that you had there too with music, where it was kind of like it was becoming this burden to you instead of being fun anymore?
It was becoming, exactly. That's exactly it. It felt like more of a burden. And it felt like, I remember getting the sense like, if I stop now, then one day I might come back to it. But if I keep going at this, then I'm going to like ruin it for myself.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I just, looking back, I was just so in my head too. So it's not just the self-judgment, but like you said, it wasn't fun anymore. So, you know, this song, Drops of Jupiter, for example, by,
Train.
Yeah, Train. Yeah. So
Love Train.
yeah. In college, when you're getting a music degree, one of the things you have to take is oral training. And that means that you're listening to music. Basically, you want to get to a point where you can analyze it. You can say, these are the chords, this is the progression. You want to be able to see and write the music down by listening to it. Mm-hmm. And my professor, she did this amazing thing as a teacher, because I've also taught, and so I understand this. She made it super fun by bringing in that song, and she allowed us to analyze that tune, So it was a little bit different than the typical classical music that we usually be analyzing. But once that happened, it was like that last little bit of fun for me got taken away, because then I started analyzing all the music I was listening to, and I would, and it was like everything became about this academic aspect, this analytical aspect. And it was like, that's totally not why I started playing. I started playing to express myself, and because it just felt good. And so that was kind of like destroyed as well.
That is very interesting, right? Because again, I think, like you said, something kind of switched over, and instead of just enjoying the music, just playing the music for fun, all of a sudden it kind of became a job and a chore, and you started over analyzing it instead of just enjoying it. Right. Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, how many other places in our life does that end up happening, right? Where we start over analyzing and overthinking things, and then it's no longer fun, right? Because we're worried about what other people are going to say or what they're going to think or whatever else. But okay, that's interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, I can feel that, right? I mean, and it's even the same. I didn't. Music has always been important in my life, but I think too, what you were kind of experiencing with the Ryan Adams music, I did too a lot in my teenage years and at different points as an adult when I would go through hard times, right? I would, when I was wanting to have a pity party for myself, or I was hurting, right? Like I remember I'll probably end up doing a future episode on a couple of songs that were that way for me. Pink Floyd, The Wall, Another Brick in the Wall,
yeah,
and I Am a Rock, Simon and Garfunkel.
I don't know that one.
Oh, I am a rock, I'm an island, and a rock feels no pain, and an island never cries. Oh. Right. So when I was feeling pain and I was wanting to cry, I would listen to that song or listen to The Wall, like Another Brick in the Wall, or really that whole album is really kind of about hardening your heart and building up this wall so that you're separating yourself from anybody else, because then you don't have to feel anything, right? Until at the end, he kind of breaks through the wall, tear down the wall, right? And so I was that way as well, right? And so there was a long time in my life where I was trying to put up a wall. I didn't want to let people in. I didn't want to share too much. I didn't want to let people know who I was. I didn't want to feel the pain. I didn't want to cry. And so I would use that music to kind of harden my heart, if you will. I'm going to swallow my fear. There's another song, I can't remember. I'm gonna anyway, I can't remember what the name of that one is, but that's the way my mind works anyway, right? Like lyrics and a little tune all of a sudden pops into my mind as I'm going through. But yeah, and I think it's so easy, and a lot of people use music as that way of kind of keeping themselves stuck where they are, in the depression, in the self-pity, which is interesting. And again, now you said, you still love Ryan Adams, but now when you listen to him, after you kind of went through the course and we talked a little bit about how you can use music different, how is that experience for you now?
It is so healing, really. I mean, what was it? I'm trying to think back to a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, maybe the week before. And I was just feeling some lower energy. I was going through a really challenging time. And it had to do with like a project that I was working on that it was not taking off the way I wanted, the way I expected, the way I'd hoped. And it's something that I've been working on for years, and I was feeling some disappointment. I was feeling, a lot of thoughts of like, oh, is this just, not going to ever happen? Am I a failure? And so I was processing some emotions there, and some Ryan Adams tune, popped in my head during that time. And I allowed myself to listen to it. And oh man. So one of the things we talked about is like being in different, what did you call it? Modalities as you're experiencing the music. And I paid extra attention to the lyrics, and I was like, and I remember like at first I could hear the melody, but I couldn't remember what the lyrics were, and I couldn't remember the song title. But I was like, okay, is it this song? Is it that one? And I was like searching on YouTube, and finally I found it. And I was like, oh my God, this is the one. This is the one. And I listened to it, and the song title was Follow the Lights. And that really, really, I was just like, oh my God, of course it's called that, And it was just like, it was moments of recognizing that there were actually the songs, his music isn't all about sadness and depression. I started to wake up to the fact that there's messages of hope in his music, that I was just totally choosing not to hear, I guess, before, because I was focused on the self-pity, But I was also able to listen to some of his music that is just so like gut-wrenching and sorrowful, and like these harmonies. He's got a lot of music that is rooted in like bluegrass and or blues music, and a lot of it can really be so, gut-wrenching and just like really pull at your heartstrings. And I was listening to that music, and I was able to feel the things that I was feeling, but in a way that was like acknowledging those emotions, but being able to then release them, and just like move through them, instead of being like just settling into them and just like staying there, So it's just so many different things that were going on. When I'm listening, I probably don't even know all the things that are going on. But it allowed me to be able to process emotions, and it allowed me to be able to recognize that, there's hope. Like I had this sense of there's messages that are coming to me that are helping me to stay the course and to keep going, which is something that we all need, at different times. So just so many things are different.
Well, no, and I think it's interesting. I'm sitting here and smiling, again, as as we're talking, because I was just sharing some of the ways that I've used music, right, and some of the things that I've found. But like you said, so much of the time we don't want to get stuck in emotions, right? And so, earlier in your life, when you would listen to that music, you would just stay in that struggle and depression, right? And you would just kind of sit there and you'd kind of listen to that music. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with feeling that from time to time. We just don't want to stay there for very long, right? Because in order to kind of push through, we have to feel those emotions, but then we have to move ourselves to something else, right?
Right.
And so, I think that's what, using music more intentionally of, yeah, you were drawn to that Follow the Light song. Now I got to go listen to it afterwards, right? You looked at the lyrics and you were able to kind of feel those emotions of what you were going through, but also could, right? So you can feel it deeply.
Yeah.
But you can also see the message of hope. And so you can feel it deeply for a few minutes, and then you see the hope and you push yourself out into the hope, the emotion of hope on the other side, and you leave the other stuff behind.
Exactly. When, before I recognized that I was just in the past when I would listen to, the sad music, or I would feel sad and just, it was really indulgent is what it was. And it became addictive for me. I really started to familiarize myself with those emotions. Just imagine how much I reinforced them for myself when I was bringing in the music. Like, I'm just now realizing this right now. And like, it really became habitual. It became a habitual pattern for me. And so then I became this depressed person. Like, that became who I was. I was a sad, depressed person. It was like a whole period of my life that's how I identified. And, to be able to now be a person who, I can feel sad at times, but I can know that that's not who I am. And this tool just makes it, of using music, it is just, I don't even have words for how freeing, I guess the word is that's coming to me, to be able to use music this way, because, I don't have to start to try to think my way out of my emotions. Like, I went through every therapy under the sun. Okay. And the one that worked for me for a long time was cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yep.
But I started getting really tired using.
It's a process.
Yeah. And it was like, it's so now to be able to move myself so quickly without having to get into all of that, it's really priceless. It's truly priceless, because I never have to spend more than a few minutes in that space. And I can get on with it. I can get on with the business of just living my life,
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. No, but it's yeah, I mean, this is well, I know, I mean, when we were going through you were going through the class, right? And you made the comment, I can't remember exactly what it was that you said, but like, this changed, I think this changed my life or something like that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What? Yeah. I just shared a little bit of stuff here. What are you talking about? How did it change your life? But I think you're kind of sharing a little bit, and I want to get deeper into it, because again, I think a lot of times people don't realize, but just like what you were doing with certain music, if you were feeling depressed, you'd listen to depressing music, right? As a way of, it's a distraction. It's no different than reaching out and grabbing a alcohol bottle and drinking, or doing drugs, or anything else. I mean, it's a way of coping in trying to kind of numb or stay in some of that pain that you're in. Anger is another one too, right? And again, I mean, you wouldn't recognize me, but at different times, Jason was an angry boy, right, as well. And so, I would listen to music that was angry, mm-hmm. right, to just kind of express some of that angst and teenage frustration and everything else, right? And again, there's a lot of great music out there for it, right, as well. I mean, gangster rap and some other stuff. I mean, come on, when people are hurting and they're coming up with a lot of the stuff, and I still love it, but I see it differently now too than I did before.
Right.
Because again, I was trying to harden my heart, keep myself in some of that anger, like fucking, whatever. Right. Versus now when I listen to it, it's different. Right. Because I just interviewed somebody else and he made reference to Tupac. Love Tupac, as well. But I hadn't listened to his music for quite a while. I mean, everybody knows California Love, and stuff like that. But I went back and re-listened. I know Long Beach in the house, and that's where I live, right? So it's like I always love it when that comes on. But I went back and was listening to some of Tupac stuff again, and it's the same thing, right? I mean, but I'm in a different place in my life now than I was before. So now when I listen to Tupac, it's like I'm appreciating the music. I mean, the guy was amazing. Yeah. The way he could drop lines, how quick he did it. I mean, he would do a lot of those recordings were single takes in the studio. It's like they would just drop a few things and throw some mixes in, and he'd just ad lib in the middle, and boom, off you go. And it's like, done, take. Wow. Oh, okay. But when I listen to it now, it's a different sort of a feel, right? And it's the same thing too when I listen to The Wall now, it's different, right? But when I was a teenager listening to something like Comfortably Numb, yeah, baby, I wanted to be numb. I didn't want to feel anything. And now I don't listen to that the same way. Right. So anyway, it's so I thought this was interesting. Like you said, you never have to spend more than a few minutes on this, which again, I've always kind of known that, but I didn't realize how much it is, right? I mean, so again, for people that aren't familiar with things like cognitive behavioral therapy or hypnosis, I mean, usually you're talking about a longer period of time, right? I mean, how long are we talking about compared with what you're doing now with being able to use music?
How long? Well, so are you asking how long did it take me to apply those tools? Or are you asking or to shift my emotions?
To shift, right? Because I know too, it's like we talked about as a group, in the class that, a lot of times you can do things like meditation. A lot of times, people can meditate for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, never really get that feeling, that altered consciousness state. Right. But when I shared some of those tones and showed you how I was using them, it was like literally we listened to it for 3 minutes during the class, and everybody was like, holy shit. And that was 3 minutes, right?
Yes.
Not 3 hours. That was 3 minutes.
Yeah. So when it comes to shifting my emotional state, if I will pick up a frequency tone 100% of the time now, over any other tool that I've learned when it comes to shifting my emotional state, because it is so it's fast, shockingly fast, and it is just easy. And of course you want something, why wouldn't you want something that's easy? But I don't have to try to figure anything out. Again, I don't have to try to reframe my thoughts. With something with cognitive behavioral therapy, I've since so many things have changed in my life, which we've been through some similar processes and things, but the perspective I have now is cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't even make sense to me anymore because I'm okay, most of my thoughts are meaningless anyway, is kind of how I feel. But to take that tool and compare it to picking up a 369 hertz or something like that and sticking my earbuds in, it's no comparison. I could talk myself in circles for hours. I mean, let's be real. Like,
Oh yeah, no, I know. I've done it too, right? It's what's always funny to me about things like, and I mean, even, the word cognitive is in there, right? It's like we try to use cognitive prefrontal cortex thinking to solve a subconscious.
mm-hmm,
It's like
mm-hmm.
those two parts of the brain aren't connected. So you can talk to yourself all day long,
Right.
but it's
Yes.
not going to get through, because unless you're doing something that's actually activating the subconscious level, which music does, right?
Right.
And that's why, again, is I've always found it helpful, but like I said, the last few years I've been experimenting more with it, right? I mean, just some simple stuff, right? And again, people that are listening might be like, why are you guys talking about this? Well, if you go to YouTube, look up any video on YouTube that has more than 1 billion views, and that's billion with a B. More than 1 billion views. They all have one thing in common. They're music videos. If you look at every single advertisement that you see on television, every single advertisement has music in it. There is music in every advertisement. You walk into any store, there is background music going on in that store. You watch any movie or any television show, there is music in there. Not all the time, right? It's like usually on ads, it'll be from A to Z. There'll be some sort of backtrack on it. And it won't be that way in all movies, but there is always background stuff, and it's being used to get you into a certain emotional state, right? And so again, I started looking at this and I'm like, if everybody around us is manipulating us and getting us to do things by using music on us, what if we started being intentional about how we were using the music and use it on ourselves to get what we want? And guess what? It works.
Yes.
It works.
It works so well. Like I said, shockingly. And like the intentionality is another big thing that, and I wouldn't have used the words intention, 20 years ago, when I was listening to Ryan Adams to like stew in my self-pity and everything. But that was my intention. My intention was to stay sad and
in the
depressed.
self-pity. Yeah.
And so when I know that I'm okay, I'm putting on this music because, my intention is to wake up peacefully, or to, focus on, the things that are going to uplift me today. My intention is to energize myself. I told you right before we hopped on that I had taken a nap.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't tell you is that I actually took a frequency nap. That's what I'm calling
it. Oh, you
now.
did? Okay. Oh, I like that term. Okay, I got to write that one down. Frequency nap. So explain what you did with that. Because like I said, I think I know what you did, but so everybody else knows what you did in your frequency nap.
Yeah. So I put in my earbuds. I put on, actually, you created the solfeggio.
That's that scale, the 30-minute scale. Yeah.
Yes. And so I listened to different frequencies in my ears for 30 minutes. I put my little mask on that blocks out the light. And for 30 minutes, I laid in my bed and I listened to these frequencies. And, I only slept for like 5 hours last night. I just woke up, early. And so my sleep was cut short. And I had that kind of like little edge that you can sometimes get when you just like are a little bit irritable because of lack of sleep. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to like come in the best energy possible. And
I can't imagine you irritable. So I'm glad you.
Everybody says that. Everybody's always like, why? You weren't irritable. But yeah, so I did that. And then it's like afterwards, I felt so refreshed. It feels like I'm starting a new day. It feels like I've slept my full time. And, it uplifts my mood. It makes me feel calm and relaxed. And it does all that without me having to, again, think through it. It is like you're taking a 3-hour meditation session and condensing it into this very, very short period of time. And, usually I don't do 30 minutes. Usually I do like 3 to 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it just freaking works, And
so
so I love
even
that.
in the 3 to 5 minutes, even if you just listen to something for 3 to 5 minutes, you get that calm, relaxed, and
I get
re-energized
huge
feeling
benefit.
again.
Huge benefit. Yeah, every time. I always feel my mood improve. I always feel my energy improve. And sometimes other things happen. I don't know how much woo-woo you want to get on this, but
Go anywhere you want to go.
Okay.
Go anywhere you want to go.
I definitely experience things like today, what I noticed, and yesterday also, my whole right side of my body vibrating, and kind of how I take that is like, I'm healing in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Usually like the right side of my body tends to be that my more tense side of my body. And so I just kind of take that as, oh, I'm healing, I got sick a few weeks ago and I couldn't hear out of my right ear for several weeks. And then I remember listening to a Beyonce song, and no, I wasn't listening to it. I was actually singing it. So
even better, right?
Yeah,
because you're multi-sensory, bringing it in. Yeah.
Yes. And there's this part in the song Halo where she does this whole like improvisatory sounding, like it's I can't think of the word right now, but vocalists will know the word when you do a lot of like ornamentation, vocal ornamentation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not a singer per se, but I was hitting the notes, and then all of a sudden my right ear buzzed and then popped. The pressure finally relieved in my right ear. And I was like, holy crap. Like that was crazy. It was like I could hear the frequency of the note that I ended on. It was like this high note. And I was like, what just happened? Like, I still don't even know what to even make of that. But it did make me think, you know what? I'm good. I'm planning on taking vocal lessons to explore that more, and to develop my voice. So that's kind of a cool side thing that came out of this.
Well, yeah, more than cool side thing, right? And I'd be curious what actual frequency or note it was that you were actually hitting when that happened, right? But no, and I mean that's one of the things that I learned too is literally, again, these specific frequencies or different frequencies literally change the cellular makeup in our body, right? I mean, it forms different patterns within ourselves, within our bodies. And so again, it's not a surprise that something like that could happen, right? Because again, it both from an energetic perspective, but also from a physical perspective, things like that can actually change in your body. That feeling of kind of, what'd you say, was it numbness or kind of tingleness on vibration?
Yeah,
it was vibration on your right hand side, right? And again, there's reasons probably why it's your right side, and you mentioned anxiety before and some other stuff, and we talk a little bit more about that when we're not on the air maybe, but not a surprise, right? But again, that something is going on, and I felt the same thing too, right? It's like I will, the more intentional I am and the more I'm trying to listen, because I'm like you, there was, I think you said, when you were trying to find that Ryan Adams song, you're like, oh, I kind of know, but I can't remember the title. I kind of remember how it goes. I woke up this week, same thing. I tried to Shazam with me going, oh, bah, 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 and I couldn't figure it out, right? And I couldn't remember any of the words. So I still got to find that song that popped into my head. But a lot of times when I wake up in the mornings, I'll have a song in my head, and so I'll just listen to it. And sometimes I'll listen to it 3 times. Sometimes I'll listen to it 10 times. in a row. I'll look at the lyrics because I know that there's some message in there for me that I need to hear, right? And sometimes I break down and cry like a little baby, right? I mean, sometimes I'll get up in the morning and I'm sitting out on my patio and I don't know what it is, but sometimes the tears will just kind of come and release and it's very quick. And then I kind of move on, right? And sometimes I don't, right? It's not like every day Jason gets up and goes out and cries on his back patio. No, right? But I know that when things like that happen, something is changing energetically and or physically with me. You know, just like you with the vibration with your ear, right? Those are energetic and physical things that are actually happening to you because you're intentionally using frequencies to be able to help you, because we really can heal from it.
Right.
So, and like I said, it's easy to do, it's quick. For most people, it doesn't even really cost you any money because you probably already have a lot of the music already, or, you know, subscribe to Pandora or Apple or, you know, different places like that where you've literally got millions of songs at your disposal, too. So, and I know you've been doing this too, and I know we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this because you've had some experiences where you've started kind of listening to these nudges or other things that come along. And I know, you know, we were just chatting, I think on Facebook, and you brought up Everybody Hurts was a song that came to you this last week. And so what's interesting is that song has been in my mind off and on for the last several months. And so literally when you told me that too, it's like, okay, I've been thinking I need to do a podcast episode on this song. So I just did. Right now, again, that's one of those songs where when you listen to it, a lot of people, I mean, it's a little bit sad, right? Because and especially though when you look at the video, very powerful, right? Because it's like we all hurt, we all cry sometimes, and it kind of shows some of the thoughts that these people are having, you know, as they're kind of making the video. And it's like, oh man, I've had that thought and I've had that thought and I've had that thought, right? Kind of a thing.
Right.
But to me, you know, when I first heard that, I probably would be thinking this is a sad song, right? And a lot of people I think probably still associate as a sad song, but the message I was getting was the same message you were getting.
Yeah.
And what message did you get from that song?
It was that end, the hold on, that part right there.
Hold on, take comfort in your friends, hold on. So I see that song now as a song of hope.
Yeah.
Right. So again, if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling like, oh man, I can now listen to that song. Right. And the first part of it, again, you know, I can sit in that sadness for a few minutes, but then I get that shot of hope as well, right? If I'm, again, intentionally kind of thinking about it and allowing myself to go there, by the time I finish that song, right, I can feel hope. But what it does for me also, right, and I'll share a little, told anybody this, and here I'm telling the whole fucking world, but anyway. When I listen to that song, I feel compassion for people who are hurting. Right. And so I can kind of say a little prayer to myself and kind of shoot my light out into the world for all of those people. And I know there's millions of people all over the world who are hurting.
Yep.
And I don't want them to hurt. You know, I know that might be part of their karmic path that they have to go through. But if there's anything I can do to help give them hope, to share love with them, right? That song also helps me kind of sit in that place and imagine positive energy going out to the world. Right?
Yeah.
So where somebody would see it as a sad song, it's a very powerful song of hope and compassion. And I just love that song. So thank you for messaging me on that too, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's so see, there's, because this is where I wanted to go with you a little bit too, because I know you were talking about kind of the synchronicity, right? And so, for example, like that, you sharing that in that message that we were going back and forth on in Facebook, right, helped to synchronize something that I'd been thinking about or feeling beforehand too, right?
Right.
And so it was a message for you, it was a message for me, right, in what to do.
Yeah.
And I remember, when I was talking about, hey, everybody, I'm going to do this music class. I don't quite know what I'm going to do, but it's going to be cool. I promise. Just trust me. Come along for the ride. And a few people did, right? Because I'm kind of crazy. And Reshanda was one of those. But it was that same thing where you kind of reached out and you're like, I was even trying to remember how it started, because I don't even think you'd heard about the class, but you're like,
Right. Correct.
you've just been on my mind today, and I need to reach out to you about something. And I don't even remember how it started.
It was what happened was a friend of mine, Stacy, she mentioned
That's right.
that
Stacy had seen it and she mentioned it to you.
what happened was she saw me. I had uploaded a little video of myself playing guitar. And she was like, oh yeah, I forgot that you're a musician. You should check out Jason's, class or whatever. I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'll get to that. And then I didn't get to it. Right. But then some other things happened. I had a dream. And in the dream, there were certain symbols that came to me in the dream. And then that combined with something else, there were like several things that all conspired, where I think maybe I happened upon you in just the right time. You like had gone live on Facebook or something.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because you popped onto one of the lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next day I was like, apparently I'm supposed to connect with you about this, and it was like, it was just so many nudges that happened. And then when I actually enrolled, so many more things. It was like I was definitely supposed to be there, because so many other things happened and opened up for me. As some things as small as my brother gifted me for my birthday a pair of AirPods. And I had always said I was never going to have AirPods. I love them.
I know, I love them too.
They're freaking incredible.
I love my Bose. I've got some Bose. These are Bose ones, but yeah, I just love the AirPods too. So
like they make everything is just on another level with them. When I'm listening to my frequencies, I can hear, not just the frequency itself, but I hear lots of different resonances off of that frequency. And, I feel it in my body, and it's just like, and so anyway, the synchronicities continued going into it. I shared with you, like I think in the first week, I woke up one morning on a Saturday morning, and I was like hearing a song from the Disney movie Encanto. And I just kept singing it. It would not leave me. I could not let it go. And I was like, well, why don't I just watch this movie, which is I don't typically just wake up on a Saturday morning and watch a movie. I usually,
especially a cartoon. I mean, it's not like we were when kids, we'd wake up and watch Saturday morning cartoons. But...
Right. But as I was watching it, toward the end of the movie, I always cry at the end of it. But some words in, it was that the lyrics really just they came out and they just resonated with me deeply. And then I think I listened to one of your calls from your course, and almost verbatim, those words came out of your mouth. but it was in relationship to a song that we were listening to. I don't remember what the song was now, but it was just like all of these things that were all these little like pinpoints, these little breadcrumbs, just started. It's almost like these things are just lighting up all around me. The Da Vinci Code is coming to mind, like, that imagery of like all of a sudden you start seeing all this stuff is popping out at you. Like that's the experience that I was having, and it led me to join, but it also just kept going, and it still happens, like with REM Tune, reaching out to you about that, because it was like I didn't even know why that song came to me, and I was playing on my guitar. And I didn't know it was like it was that same like period of I was working on this project and I was like, should I just quit? Like, am I just, not meant to do this? And as I was playing and I got to that part, the hold on, like it was like maybe the third repetition of that line that it hit me, and I was like, oh my God, like this is telling me to hold on, like to don't give up and keep going. And like you said, the comfort with your take comfort in your friends, and just like relying on my support network and knowing that people are rooting for me and all of these things. And it's just everywhere, like we were saying earlier, it's just everywhere.
Well, and that's why, like I said, I wanted to bring it up because I wanted you to share your experiences, because I had the same things happen to me, right? But again, to hear it from somebody else, right? And for people to hopefully realize, because I know when you first reached out about the course, right? And again, it's like I'm never one to like try to twist people's arms and, oh, Reshanda, if you don't take my course, then your life's going to be shit and you're going to regret it. I mean, there's people that are kind of like that, right? But you reached out and you're like, I've been getting all these different things and I'm not sure what it means. And I'm like, well, I'm doing the music class. Is that something that you want? You're like, well, I don't know. All these things are kind of pointing that way. I'm like, well, if they're pointing that way, then maybe you should join. It's up to
Right.
you. I mean, I'm not gonna pressure you. I don't need your money. I want to help you, but it's only if you want to do it, right? And you did, right? And so you've been following these things because, like you said, there's synchronicities going on all around us. There are things in song lyrics. There are things in signs, in images, in pictures. I mean, look at next time you go to the toilet, look at the linoleum or the tile in front of you. There will be images that will pop out of that you will see, right? Even something as simple as that, right? There are things all around us that are trying to help give us answers.
Yeah.
Give us peace, give us guidance, protect us if we will listen, right? And a lot of people say, oh, that's a coincidence. No, there's no such thing as coincidence, folks. There are synchronicities, right? And the more you start looking for those things or allowing those things and following those synchronicities, the more they will happen.
Yeah.
Right. And you said you experienced that too, right? I mean, again, it's like all of a sudden you sign up and it's like boom, 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 even more so than it was before.
Yeah.
And that's why, like you said, when you were sharing some of the things, I'm like, you need to share this with other people because I know it can happen. This happened to me, but it's like, girl, I can't believe this happened to you in the course of like a month. Right.
Yeah. And I think part of the synchronicities for me personally is that it was like the perfect time for me, because I was sharing with you a bit that I had committed to just not being attached to my thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I hadn't made that commitment, I don't know. I can't speak to, how it might be different. I'm sure I would still get a lot of benefit from it. But I think that for me, like allowing myself to not think that my thoughts are so important or that they mean anything or that they're true, as kind of like a precursor to your offering, it was really powerful. It was almost like there was this void in my life where my thoughts used to be. And then boom, that space got filled with, oh, like there's frequency, there's sound. And it was really like a perfect timing for me. And I think it really allowed everything to, maybe that's why it was so rapid. Mm-hmm. But, the changes are so many, and just so it's really hard to even keep track of all of them, between the physical changes, the emotional changes, just all the things that I experience. If I were to keep like a log of them, it would be a challenge to try to keep a log of everything.
Well, I'm grateful, and I know too, as we kind of started our discussion, and you were kind of explaining before about, how you had that love of music before, and then it kind of died.
Yeah.
And you made the comment, coming back home to music. Mm-hmm. That's what it feels like, right? And I think too it's interesting the way that you said that too, because I think maybe we'll just to say it again for people, because I think a lot of times too, when people are going along in their spiritual quest, right? A lot of people think, I have to clear my mind. And when I clear my mind completely, then I will be enlightened. Right? That's not what it is, folks. It's not how it works, right? You replace it. You replace the monkey chatter with something else. And it's not about thinking about nothing. It's about thinking about everything at once, but from an observer standpoint, and having second attention and frequency and hearing the energy and the trees speak and the music and the frequency and so much that's around us to connect us with the whole of everything else. It's not about not thinking about anything. It's about connecting with everything.
Yeah.
So I know for me, music has helped me to do that. Right.
Absolutely.
And I think I was trying to, when we were, I think we talked about this before we hit record. So I can't remember. I'm getting to be an old fart. I don't remember what I say and what I don't say. But, I know one of the exercises that we did was, it was a specific tone, and it's kind of got a cyclicality to it. So it kind of gets you to be like, kind of thing. Right. And I kind of refer to it as melting a little bit, right? And we were talking about before where, it's kind of this altered state of consciousness that a lot of people, spend years, trying to develop from just a pure meditation standpoint, or even an individual, can sometimes take people hours to try to get to that point. Literally in 3 minutes, right? Like we were talking about before, y'all were in that with using that in a specific way, right? And knowing how to use it and what you're doing. But that's more about the connectedness, right? Is that it's not that we're not thinking about anything, but you're melting, or the way I kind of describe it is actually connecting with the all. Right? And music can help us do that very quickly, very easily. I mean, there's a reason that music is used in all the different places that it is, right? Now, most people are using it to get you to give them money, right? It's like, buy more of my shit, casinos, stores, advertisements, everybody's using it, right? To get you to do what they want you to do. But it makes a huge difference, and you're seeing this as you've now for the last couple months chosen to use music more intentionally to get what you want.
Exactly. It's the intention every single day and it's knowing that this tool is available. It's right there, at arm's length. What am I trying to say? It's at my fingertips is what I'm trying to say.
There you go.
Right there at my fingertips.
Depends on how far away your phone is, if it's the whole arm or if it's just
exactly. And anything that I need in terms of emotional states, I can access it at the push of a button. I mean, if I need to move myself to be able to perform, for professionally, or if I need to relax myself, if I need to wake myself up, if I need to make myself sleepy, whatever it is, I mean,
now you know how to do it.
I can manage it, instantly. And that's just, it's priceless. It really is.
Well, and so I'm grateful that you got that out of it, right? I mean, because obviously having a tool or some way that literally in just a few minutes will help you is, like you said, priceless, right? Because it's like we're all busy. I mean, who has time to sit down for 2 hours and meditate every day? Most people don't, right? So they don't do it. But they don't even do it for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, because a lot of times you don't get much benefit for it there, but everybody could spend 2 or 3 or 5 minutes listening to some music or doing some different things and knowing how to use some of the tones and some of the exercises that you can use for it as well. And like, boom, right? You get it. But I think too is, for me is I love that you're coming back home to music. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember seeing like some videos of you playing your drum and doing a few things like that. And it's, that whole idea of just doing it for the love again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Use it as a tool, enjoy it, use it as a tool, but just to enjoy and love music again.
Right.
And like you said, even not be afraid to sing out loud. I mean, everybody can sing. We might not all be able to sing on key, but that's okay.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I'm not a professional musician. Nobody's ever paid me, right, for not to play music, but I do. And sometimes I make mistakes. I mean, people that have been listening to the podcast for a while, they know that sometimes I'll just start singing or playing my guitar and I make mistakes. I don't have 5 hours a day to practice my guitar to sound like Eddie Van Halen. Wish I did, but I don't. So I'm never going to be Eddie, but I can still pick it up and play good enough, right? Just like we were sitting around a campfire somewhere.
Yeah.
Because that's really, it's the authenticity behind it too. And you even know this too, as a professional musician, right? When you're playing music, like written music, for a particular purpose, right? Like if you were playing music during a play, right? Like a Broadway play, there's always an orchestra and band that are playing to go along with it, right? That kind of playing is more rote and a little bit heavy. It's routine, as opposed to actually just picking up your guitar or your drum and just playing what comes from your heart. That's a totally different connection with music.
It is. Very much so. In fact, I think that was the key for me. Coming back home to music, it's like part of that is the fun, just playing because I enjoy it, picking up my guitar with the intention of I'm just gonna sit here and just enjoy myself for a few minutes. And what happens when I'm in that space, I get into flow and I'm just like immersed, it's like I'm immersed. I'm in the music. That's where I am. I'm just in the music. And it just feels like me, really. It just feels like me being me expressing myself, and the music is me. And what's interesting is something that happened over the holidays was I took my guitar along with me, you know, and I brought it into my aunt's house, and some of my extended family were there. And I was like, I'm just gonna bring my guitar and just see what happens. I didn't plan anything, but when they saw the guitar, they couldn't let it go. My aunt was like, okay, Reshanda's going to play. Everybody come in the room. And I'm like, oh crap. And I'm like giving all the disclaimers, like, I'm not a guitarist. And then when I said that, my cousin looks at me. He's like, you're a musician. And for some reason, when he said that, it just hit, like, I'm feeling it again. It just hit me. It was like, oh my God, I'm a musician. Like, that is who I am. That's who I've always been, a musician. It doesn't matter that I'm not playing in the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, which was my dream when I was like 18, 19 years old, And like, to be able to own that again in this way, I am about to cry, but
all right, like, I'm going to as well.
That is, it's something that, it was just surprising, and it's such a gift. Such a gift.
Well, to get part of your identity back, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's why it hit you when your cousin said you are a musician, and you went, oh, and you're feeling it again now, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a part of Reshanda. That is a part of your identity, right? That you have been ignoring for a while.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, one of the people that I know called me Music Man. And I'm like, at first when he said it, I was kind of like, well, that's different. But then I'm like, I think I'm going to own that.
Yeah.
Right? Because there is, there's that power when we own that identity again, right? And for whatever reason, I mean, we all lose parts of our identity throughout life because shit happens, right? And sometimes it's like the music, the professional aspirations, the professional career side of it just got heavy, and it's like, I can't deal with that now. I got to put it aside, right? Because it no longer became fun. And for all of us, parts of our identity no longer become fun, and we set them to the side. Or other people tell us that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not whatever enough. And so we put it to the side, right? Like for music too. I mean, people might make fun of you if you can't sing very well. Who gives a shit, right? Sing anyway. Sing anyway. But sometimes we'll give up parts of our identity because we let other people tell us that we can't be that, or we tell ourselves that we can't be that.
Right.
But what a great feeling it is when you reclaim that identity, right? Shout it. I'm a musician. I'm a musician, right? I'm a musician. Okay. Right? It feels good, doesn't it?
Oh, it feels amazing. It feels absolutely, yeah, it feels so right.
Because we don't have to be a professional. We don't have to be perfect, right? Any music that we make helps in this world, right? And I wanted to bring up too, right? I mean, again, you dropped a lot of great quotes too. It's like, but when you said the music is me, right? That feeling that you have,
yes,
when you are in flow and when you are connected to the music,
that's the melting,
and the music is flowing through you, that is being connected to the universe.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to talk about before. Yeah. So again, hopefully people will get that. Rewind if you didn't get it before, but this is one of the reasons too why music is so important. It allows us to connect with the all. because the music is you, but it's bigger than you, and the music becomes you. And that's why, as a musician, when you go off on a solo or you're doing some of this stuff, I was having dinner with one of my friends and his partner a couple months ago, and that's what she was saying about him. She's like, Joe, when you go off and you riff on a solo, because he's a saxophonist and plays flutes and other stuff, but he plays sax in like blues bands and other stuff like that too. And it's like, when he's doing a solo, it's so much different than like playing a cover tune, right? Because when he goes off and he does a solo on the sax, that's him connecting. That's the music flowing through him, right? As well, it's connecting him to the greater. It's connecting to all of us as well. Yeah. And there's that difference between when you're just playing to practice, oh crap, right? There's a mechanism to that, right? And again, we have to just improve ourselves, but there's a way different feeling to that versus intentionally and connecting. Just like there's a difference in just popping in headphones and not even paying attention to what you're listening to, right, or not even listening to what's on the radio in the car or what you're getting pump fed in the stores, versus popping it in and being intentional about how you're using it or what you're actually listening to, and kind of processing that from a more intentional standpoint. Completely different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That intention is so key, because that was really the switch, I think, that flipped, because sure, I would have music playing sometimes in my car, like you said, but now it's like every time that I'm choosing music, I am intentional about it. I am thinking about, okay, what do I need right now? What would I like right now? Not just throwing something on just to throw something on, just to have like quote unquote background noise. It's, I'm allowing myself to be guided to what would be good for me right in that moment.
Yeah. And, asking questions like, what do I need now? Good question to ask, right? Or again, if you're driving in the car and you just listen to the radio, what do I need to learn from what's playing? Something will pop in. Mm-hmm. Something will pop in, right? And like you said, I mean, I've been doing this for a little while now, a lot more intentionally. But when I go out and drive, I try to see what messages the universe is sending to me through the songs that come on the radio while I'm driving.
I love that.
Sometimes it's pretty amazing. Sometimes I get nothing, but other times it's like, holy shit. Yeah. Anyway. All right. I love having you on. I love talking to you. It's, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you sharing. Like I said, I'm grateful that it really has helped you come back to music, has helped you, be able to push through and do some of these things and have so many quick wins, as well. So anything else that you want to share? I mean, you dropped a lot of bombs today, that this is one of the episodes people should listen to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, because there's a lot that came out of your mouth that's very wise. You dropped a lot of bombs.
Well,
mic drop. Of course, ours are on our stand, so we can't drop them. But anyways,
right. I just want to thank you. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for offering your course, for putting it out there, maybe not knowing exactly what was going to come of it. And I remember when I told you it changed my life, I remember the look of shock on your face.
I know.
When I said that. But just thank you for being you and for doing that. By you doing what you did, my life is the course of my life. I don't even know where it's going, but I know that it's changed. I know the trajectory of my life has changed as a result of this, and other people as well. you know? So the ripple effect that it's having, so thank you.
Well, and thank you, because the ripple effect you have, right? As now you're doing this more and you're sharing more, you know, the fact that you took your guitar for the holidays, right?
Yeah.
You're spreading the love with everybody in your family or everybody who was there as well, right? Because now you're not afraid to do it. You're pulling it back out. So
Right.
the ripple effect is coming from you too, right? Which is beautiful, beautiful to see. All right. Well, if people want to reach out to you, Reshanda, too, how's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
I'm on Instagram at Reshanda Yates and on Facebook.
Okay. Both
Same
of
thing.
those social media platforms, you can find it pretty easy. And I'm sure I'm connected and liked with you on both of them too. So if people know me, they can find
So
you. Or it's not like your name is, you know, Sue Smith or something like
yeah.
that, where it's like there's a million of them that are out there.
Exactly.
So yeah, so go find Reshanda. And again, thank you, my friend, for coming on. I really appreciate you, and I'm grateful you're getting the results that you are.
So much gratitude for you, brother.
Thank you.